Hi everyone, Tony Brewer here from Orphan Voice. God bless you. It's good to be with you today. I'd like to talk with you a little bit about a parable, one of Jesus's parables in Matthew 13, specifically verse 24, and then relate that to our lives, the truth of that to our lives, and the truth of that to orphans, and the least of these that you as our partner are ministering to. So with that in mind, let's start out. Let me read this verse in Matthew 13. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and hid, and for joy over it, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. If you can imagine with me, and thinking about a rural area, and a man is I'm just imagining what he could have done to illustrate this. He might have walked out into a field, and it's maybe just an ordinary field, but suddenly his foot hits something as he walks. He thinks it's a rock, perhaps. He looks down, and it actually looks like the corner of a chest that maybe the rains have washed the dirt away from, and he reaches down, curious, removes dirt to be able to open up just the corner of the lid, and when he opens up the lid, he sees just unimaginable wealth, gold, silver, precious things. And he's just so happy. He's overjoyed because he's found this treasure in the field. And so he very carefully closes the lid and restores the dirt to the chest, and so that it's covered again. Now, the only legal way for this man to have the chest and to have the treasure, of course, if he owns the field. And he's not going to steal it. He wants to follow justice in every way. All the law must be fulfilled in order for him to have the treasure. No easy way around. And so he goes to the owner of the field and makes an offer, says, I'd like to buy your field. The owner doesn't understand why. It's like the owner has 100 acres and he's got a lot of good land, but this field isn't particularly a good field. It's just a rocky field. It doesn't produce anything. There's no beauty in it. There's no obvious beauty in the field. And so the man, but he recognizes that this gentleman wants to buy the field very badly, and so he asks an astronomical price, and he won't come down. And so the owner makes this offer, and the man goes away, and he's sad in a way because of the price that he has to pay, but he also wants the treasure so badly. He determines that he's going to have to sell everything to get that field. And so he may go home to his wife, for example, and say, honey, I must have this field. Well, how are you going to get it? Where are you going to get the money? Well, I'm going to sell the farm. I'm going to sell the house. I'm going to sell the farm equipment. I'm going to sell my truck. I'm going to sell your car. I'm going to empty our checking account. I'm going to empty our savings account. I'm going to empty our retirement account. I'm giving everything that I have to buy this field. And maybe in a supreme act of faith, the wife goes along with it, and the husband does all those things. And he goes back to the owner of the field, and he pays the price. He pays everything that he has. He gives the man everything that he has to buy the field. And he buys it, and it's legal, and he gets a deed, and the money is exchanged. There's a legal exchange, and all of justice is met so that he owns the field. And then he's so joyful, and he goes and gets his wife, honey, let's go. Let me show you the treasure. Let me show you why I wanted the field. And they go to where the chest is, and they unearth the chest, and he opens the lid, and it's just unimaginable treasure in the chest. Unimaginable treasure. And now it's his. Now Jesus is the man who wanted the treasure in this parable. There's many ways there's multiple ways to understand this parable, but this particular way, I think, makes sense. And we think of Jesus as being the man who gave everything to buy to get the treasure. And the field is the world, obviously. You know, if I have property, I may think it's worth X, but it's really worth what someone will pay for it. It's worth what someone will pay for it. But the flip side of that is that my property has a definite value, and the value is what someone will pay for it. In this case, Jesus valued the treasure enough to give his life for it. Who is the treasure? What is the treasure? The treasure is you, and the treasure is me. And the treasure is the weak and the poor and the orphan and he who has no helper, those that we're working with in Vietnam. We're all together in that sense. We're the treasure that Jesus gave an ultimate price for. We all know what it cost Jesus physically to be on the cross, but we often don't think about what the spiritual reality of what was going on. Justice had to be met, just like the sale of the field had to be just. Justice had to be met with respect to me and you and the least of these to whom we minister to. Sin separated. The breach was far too wide for us to be able. We couldn't get to God. We knew that there was something in us keeping us from him. And we learned that was sin. And in order for that problem to be met, Jesus had to give himself. The Father had to send his Son to give all for our redemption, for my redemption, for your redemption, for the redemption of the least of these. While Jesus hung on that cross, God laid upon him my sin, your sin, the sin of the world, and the rejection, the punishment for that sin, the rejection that sin brought about. You and I deserve to be rejected, but of course Jesus took that rejection. That's why he said on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? For the first time in history, the Father did not answer the cry of the Son. He did not answer. Jesus didn't die of the crucifixion. He died of a broken heart. My God, why have you forsaken me? But then when Jesus bore that tremendous punishment for me and for you and for the least of these, since he was sinless himself, at a certain point God said the demands of justice is met. The demands of justice is met, no more. And he sent the Holy Spirit to raise Jesus from the dead. Jesus stayed on earth 50 days, and then he ascended to heaven and was enthroned, where he now sits on the right hand of the Father, making intercession for you, for me, and for the children and youth that we together minister to. One of those I want to tell you about now. I won't mention her name, and I won't tell you where she lives, but she was born, didn't know her father. At an early age, her mom married a man, and they lived together, and life went on, and that family moved to a larger area, and it developed that the stepfather had been abusing the little girl multiple times, all those years, multiple times, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and this little girl's situation came to our attention, and we were able to intervene. But how do we intervene? How can the rejection that little girl has suffered, how can it be cured? It can be cured by the love of God, bringing that child to the point where she sees that Jesus himself bore the tremendous rejection. She's not alone. She hasn't suffered that alone. Jesus suffered her rejection like he suffered my rejection, and like he suffered your rejection. And she can come to wholeness and health because of that. She's on that road right now. Pray for her, Lord, that the Lord will restore to her the years that the locust has eaten. But she's on the road to recovery because of you. There's a link below. If you'd like to help us and minister to this little girl and others like her, please do. We love you. God bless you. Until next time.